So first of all, I'm gonna say this right off the bat, and it's really unfortunate, but I think that I for sure wasted my money when buying this camera. So I don't know what's been up with the weather recently. It's like one day it's super hot, the other day it's super cold, and today in Fort Worth, it happens to be very, very cold. So recently I picked up this guy. It's an older camera, but I'm hoping to be able to match this camera body to my Sony FX3 for a second angle. Now this camera is a bit old, and there are a few different concerns as far as matching the camera bodies together go. And so instead of figuring it out all by myself, I figured I'll make this video because I'm sure you guys maybe have some of the same questions whenever you're matching two different camera bodies together, even though they're Sony bodies. So today what I'm going to be doing is running a few different series of tests, testing out the different picture profiles that match my Sony FX3 S-Log3 S-Gamma 3 profile the best with this older camera. Alright, so we just got done with our first test. Basically what I did is I just went through each and every picture profile and shot a video clip, and then I also shot the same video clip with the Sony FX3. And also I'm kind of afraid that the audio is going to sound terrible for this video, or at least for the beginning part, because it's very windy out here as well. So if it's bad, I'm really sorry about that, guys. If I had a name for the first test that I'm doing, that I just got done recording and that I'm going to record right now, I guess it would be dynamic range, because I feel like that's going to be one very difficult thing to match these cameras up with, because you can get a lot of dynamic range out of the Sony FX3. So right now we're on the way to a coffee shop, and I'm going to be doing this test a little bit different this time, because in the last test I did not change the exposure to match whenever I changed the different picture profiles. And so in this test I'm going to go in here and shoot a video, and I'm going to actually change the ISO so it equals the right exposure every time I change the picture profile. Alright, so now we're on to our second test, and this one's kind of going to be for a normal shot. Like if I'm doing a talking head video like this right here, maybe I want to have this camera here, I want to have the second angle right over here, which camera setting is going to be the best for that. And so I'm just going to shoot a few different shots straight at my face. This will also give us a good idea to see what skin tones look like in the different colors between both of those. And so we're going to do that right now. Alright guys, so now we're going to be moving on to kind of our last or final test, and that's going to be testing low light situations with this camera partnered with the Sony FX3. So here in my studio, as you can see, there's like a lot of dark or black areas in this space, and so I think that this would be the perfect place to do this test. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and do my test shot on my Sony FX3, and in this same angle, I'm going to go ahead and shoot the same shots with this, going through all the picture profiles just like before. Alright, so after checking out the footage in DaVinci Resolve, I've come to a few conclusions. So first of all, I'm going to say this right off the bat, and it's really unfortunate, but I think that I for sure wasted my money when buying this camera. And honestly, I would say that it's so bad that I'm actually going to change the title of this video, because I think that this was a very bad idea in the first place. Now I'm going to be telling you and showing you exactly why I say and think that. So first, let's address the question that I actually made this video for, which is what profile will match my Sony FX3 the best? And the answer definitely is S-Log3 at S-Gamma 3. I think that's how you say that, Gamut. So it turned out the exact same settings that I use on my Sony FX3 actually works on this camera as well, as far as the best setting to match both cameras. Now I definitely want to use the word match very, very loosely, because the quality that comes out of this camera compared to my Sony FX3 is, to me, night and day different. And I honestly did not expect this at all. I thought that I would be able to get pretty similar images out of this other camera. However, that's not the case at all when it comes to matching it to something like the Sony FX3, or probably at this point any of the newer sensor cameras from Sony. So right here in DaVinci Resolve I have the profile, and I've only thrown on the conversion LUT that converts this S-Log S-Gamma 3 footage into Rec 709, and I didn't do any adjustments, just so we can have a good fair comparison for this video. It looks like a completely different camera. Obviously it is, but I mean, all the colors are completely different. I will say there is a little bit of exposure difference. Whenever I jump into the low light test and they're exposed identical to each other, there still is quite a bit of a difference to me, and the other image is very noisy. Now, one reason why the other image is very noisy and not as clean and sharp is because on these older Sony cameras, whenever you use S-Log3, the base ISO jumps up to 800. Now, I'm not sure, and maybe I should have checked before this video, but unless that's a native ISO of this camera, that typically means that you're gonna get a little bit more noise in the shadows and in the dark areas. And so people do a lot of different things like overexpose to overcompensate for the noise. However, it's not even comparable to the Sony FX3. I would use no profile at all. I found that coming straight out of the camera, the image looks so good and so clean. So much so to where I'm actually shooting straight out of the camera colors for my Sony FX3 right now because I was interested in how that looks. So if you guys are also interested in finding a second camera for your Sony FX3, what I'm planning to do is actually buy the A7 IV and use that as my second camera. And so if you guys are interested in seeing that video, then I strongly recommend that you check out this playlist over here where I will be uploading that video whenever I make it.